Alright folks, so last time you saw this, there was basically a bare block. Nothing was on it. I ended up breaking my phone, which is what I'm filming on right now, until I can figure out a camera. I don't know what I'm going to get yet, don't anything like that. Like I said, very new to this whole idea, so I'm not going to rush into getting all that stuff unless I can actually figure out how to make it all work. So, obviously, it's all put back together for the most part. Don't have the grill on, but that's because I found some other stuff out. Like I said in the last video, I got sponsored by Mishimoto for this build, so huge shout out to them for aluminum radiator, heater hoses, radiator hoses, the works. I run all this stuff on my F-150, which I'm sure I'll do a video on that eventually, because it's got a little bit of money and work done. Nothing crazy, but it's going to end up just basically being a toy hauler at this point. But I got a lot of stuff mounted, a lot of stuff removed. Poly motor mounts, I know I talked about that in the last one. Now I gotta use my brain. It has all new transmission cooler lines. Water pump, thermostat housing, has an AC delete, so I didn't have to change belts and such. New fan tracks, the last one the whole top piece was broken off of, and XJs, as most of you know, have horrible cooling problems. So I figured might as well just take care of that right away. New alternator, spark plug strip to cap rotor, all the normal tune-up stuff. I pulled the rest of the cruise control out. I pulled the windshield washer fluid tank because it was in that fender out, and I was going to pull it out anyway whenever I do the front. This is an Evil Energy, I think. I got it off Amazon. Coolant Reservoir. The last one was plastic. It was huge. Went all the way down to the coil mount. Cracked plastic. Don't like plastic. If I can help it, I'm going to put something like aluminum or something similar in its place. Built a little bracket. My buddy's learned how to weld, so I let him weld those while I was running lines in here. I got one of my battery cables built, ran out of the loom. I like this loom because it's stretched, or I like the woven versus the plastic, because I've never seen this stuff like dry rot and fall apart. And I'm doing these two distribution blocks for power and ground. They're gonna mount in this area. I gotta decide what I'm gonna do with this nice New York hole, but I've got all my cables sitting here. I've got extra ports on this. I've only got two that connect to the battery. They're right here. One's for the fuse box, one's for the starter. I wanted to get one with more than two because I'm thinking about running an accessory fuse box for lights and stuff, so I don't have to worry about that in the future. And worst case, I just have extra holes in case more stuff comes along in the future. So the ground has the same thing. They both run through the firewall down in here next to the filter. So that's the easiest access that I had. So I still gotta go through the whole interior and route the cables the way I want to, but the loom shows up today, so whenever I get that, that's when I'll tackle that. Not a ton was changed. New gasket. I decided that I'm probably gonna go with a 99 and later intake manifold because they look like they flow better, and there's no aftermarket world for intake manifolds. For exhaust manifold, which you can't see down there, I'm probably gonna do like a Banks header on it. Nothing wild, but I don't like the way the original one is. I'm not going for power out of this thing, but I do want some kind of efficiency. So we will head to the back. I do have to pull this radiator support back out because when I was doing the isolators on the top here that mount it, I couldn't figure out why the radiator it moves a ton. Like probably up to a ½ inch at most, which is enough for me to not like it. Turns out, because the mounts were broken, or the isolators on top were broken, this bolt actually is supposed to bolt down the isolators and hold the radiator in place. So I had to order a new set of those, which means all this has to come back off, which is fine because I'd really like to repair this hole if I get a chance to. Not so worried about it free, and my hood pins are holding it in, so kind of is what it is. We'll see what I get to. Hopefully I'll have it all put back together. Initially I pulled it apart because I had a hole in my fuel rail, which mounts here to this line, if you guys don't know anything about these. had a hole in it. Could not find a new one anywhere that was decent priced and still had the relief valve in it, so I can just test rail pressures and stuff. So had to have a really good friend of mine at home in Wyoming source me one, send it to me. It should be here on Tuesday or Wednesday, and then we'll get that all put together. So I know I talked about showing y'all the interior in the last video, so we will get to that. So far I'm doing, I know I didn't, you've seen it, I didn't cover it. I'm going to do the two-tone with gray and purple. I don't know if that's going to stay, if I'm going to change colors at all, how I'm going to do it. My lovely Harbor Freight interior light. So in the last video, not that you could see it, this door panel wasn't on because the interior latch was broken. Repaired that, got that all taken care of. The seat wasn't mounted. And since then I've tore the entire dash part, pulled the radio out because I will show you the lovely plethora of wires that was sitting in it. Like I said, front to rear floors, they're not pretty, but I put my foot through right here when I first got it. Just getting in it, I stepped through the floor, so it was necessary. My new steering wheel sitting in the back, and I just have to get the adapters should be here this week too. So I went to a store here and got 2 wrenches because I've always wanted to do wrench shifters. So thought about it, looking at it, and I was like, no, I could do that in this. So I did it. I love them compared to the stock ones. I don't like the T-handle shifters. Never really had a thing for those. So interior is not going to get a ton. Probably going to put some kind of radio in it, so when I'm out just doing my normal wheeling simple stuff, I have something to listen to. I'm going to put a switch panel in here where this airbag went, so I don't have a bunch of stuff over there that I'm going to interfere with while driving or that gets in my way. It'll be all over here. I can still reach it because I'm 6 foot and this is a little car. So it'll be accessible but not in the way. That's my plan with that. So move to the back and I can show you all the stuff going on back there with way better lighting today than I did last video. Doors close okay for it being an XJ. I gotta redo a lot of the stuff on the hatch. So here is a better look at that bumper that I was telling you I built. These are just to protect the tail lights because I kind of built it a little bit to where they were exposed. I didn't like that, so I got some 3/16 flat bar, bent it in my press brake, and it works. Here's my battery mounts. I gotta figure out what I'm gonna mount it with. I've got a few ideas. Before I painted it, I welded some chain link in here, so worst case I can strap it, ratchet strap it, whatever. This is what the other end of the positive cable looks like. It just runs all the way up. Here's my grill and stuff. These are all for a Bronco that I'm working on in my other garage, so these are going to get finished up. They're coil buckets, and I'm sure I'll take videos of that too. So wheel wells, they're just 16 gauge. I didn't like the round wheel wells, and also I can't tuck a 35 or 37 in there, whichever ones I decide to run. So I went with a hex design, but I didn't want it to be a big square, so I put this little bend in it. I like the way it turned out, I really do. As for interior paneling, because OEM won't fit and I don't like plastic stuff like that, I'm gonna do probably a sheet of diamond aluminum, weld tabs down there, riv nut it in so I can just tuck it in, hide all my wires, protect it all, but I still have access to my wiring because I don't want to weld in a plate there and have to cut it out just to fix a taillight harness. It's not worth it to me. So that's pretty much all for the interior. It's nothing super fancy. I don't want fancy on this. I want useful and simple, so if something happens, it's easy to fix. I don't gotta go out of my way to fix things. It's pretty much what my whole gist of this entire build was. So